What's going on, guys, and welcome back to part 18. In this part, we're going to cover the search functionality using Google's Firebase. So without further ado, let's just get started. First, I'm just going to create a new view controller over here. So inside the general folder, I'm just going to create a new Cocoa Touch class, and we can name that as search results view controller. And basically, we're just going to be using that view controller as the view controller in which we're going to embed our table view cells, in which we're just going to show users. For the lack of functionality of Firebase, we're just going to be implementing this to search for a certain user using the username for that user. So let's just create this table view really quick. So I'm just going to clean all this unnecessary comments, and over here I'm just going to say private let search results right table view, and that's just going to be of a type table view, right? So let table just going to be a UI table view, and it's also going to be using the constraints basically. So let me just type table dot translate into or size mask into constraints. That would be false. Table dot register, we're just going to set a default table view cell for now. Basically, we're just going to implement our cell, and let me just return that table over here. And over here, I'm just going to add that table to my view controller. And over here, we can just configure constraints so that as normal, we can just configure the constraints across the entire thing. So private func configure constraints, and let me just say search results table view constraints. Let me just initialize that array, and basically we're just going to constrain the table view from all the 4 sides. So search table view. So I'm just gonna copy this so that it makes it easier. So let me just start with the top anchor, constrain that to the view top anchor, and for the leading anchor, constrain that to the leading anchor as well, not the left, it's the leading anchor. So the bottom anchor constrains to the view's bottom anchor, and for the trailing anchor, yeah, that's the one still left, so trailing anchor, and we can just say ns layout so that we can actually activate this constraints over here. All right, so the second step in which we need to view something on the screen using that table view is basically to assign the data source for that table view to be that controller. So let me just say search results table view, and let me just assign that data source to that view controller. Sure, Xcode is just going to complain right now because we haven't extended the ability of our view controller. So search results view controller over here, it's not the search view controller, that's totally different thing. So UI table view data source, and obviously these are the 2 methods that we need. So for now, I'm just going to return 5 maybe, for example. And over here, let me just say cell for row, let cell just going to be table view. Let me just write that correctly. So table view.tq cells with identifier. This is just going to be the same identifier as this one. We have covered this entirely in previous tutorials. And we're just going to set the cell text label. Yes, that's deprecated. Let me just assign that to anything right now. So return cell. Why I'm doing this is just because I want to show you something. All right, so basically these are the results that's going to be shown whenever the user try to search for a user using his display name, username, for example. We will be using the username for now. So what is that? So let me just build and run this thing over here. And yeah, basically we have the search view controller. The search view controller is basically whenever you tap on the magnifying glass in the tab bar of your app. So basically, yeah, the app has been loading over here. So basically, whenever you tap on this search, basically this is just going to show you the search view controller in which we can actually start typing in to fetch results, and the search results is basically just going to be shown on top of that view controller, and it's just going to contain all the results that we have. All right, so basically let me just go to the search view controller over here, and let me just delete all of these unnecessary comments, and maybe we can type something like a label that indicates that this is actually a view controller in which the user can search for user using the display name or username or whatever. So private let prompt label. This is just going to be a UI label. Let me just initialize that really quick. So let label, this is just going to be a UI label, label.text. And I'm just going to assign that to search for users and get connected, right? Label dot I think it's called the multi-line, or maybe it was something like text alignment, but maybe, yeah, the text alignment is just going to be a center, and label dot number of lines, set that to 0 so you can enable multi-line text basically. And here I can just say label dot translates auto resizing max into constraint, set that to false, and just return your label. Right, and over here let me type something like table.text color, and I'm just going to say what was it called, primary system, I don't know what was it called, system main, I don't know what was it called, but let me just say something like yeah, maybe system fill, secondary system fill. Yeah, we can go with something like this and just return the label. Basically, I'm just going to choose a system-based color so that it can adapt whether you're in the night mode or just the light mode. So view.add subview is just going to be a prompt label, and we can just configure the constraints as well. Right, define that function. So private func and configure constraints, prompt label constraints, and set that to an empty array. So let me just copy this so that we can write a little bit quicker. So leading anchor just going to be constrained with the leading anchor of the view. Prompt just going to constrain the view top anchor and the trailing anchor as well. So constrained with view trailing anchor, and for the prompt trailing anchor, and it's just gonna be the bottom anchor this time. So view the bottom anchor. All right, so if maybe some of you guys are just going to comment on the speed in which I write code. So basically, yeah, I have studied this code before. I've been coding for a very, very long time. So by the time you're just going to catch up a little bit of speed. So I think that's it. So maybe we can just hit build and run to see what we've done so far. So I think we've just added a simple label that's just going to be shown in here. It's not there for some reason yet. So yeah, it's actually there, but the the color is not showing up. So maybe primary. I hit this. So let me just see a color that we can system fill. Yeah, system fill. I think that's gonna work because the other one was slightly a lighter color that wasn't visible for the naked eye. So yeah, maybe tertiary one. So tertiary label link. I don't know what was it called. So system fill. All right. All right, this is just going to become a little bit ridiculous. So we want to have a color that is shown. So as you can see here, search for users and get connected. So basically we can just configure this to be from the leading anchor. I want to have a padding of 20. And for the, basically let's just delete all of this. Right, I'm just going to say prompt label dot center y. This is going to be centered with the y anchor of the screen, And for the prompt label dot leading anchor, this is just going to be set with a 20 points padding from the left, and basically prompt label dot trailing anchor. As you can see here, we're just improvising and see what looks best to have inside our app. As you can see here, we added the constraints with the negative values because we're just talking about the negative direction. So I'm not happy yet with this color. Maybe it was something like, I don't know, secondary system fill, grouped background, maybe placeholder text. Let me just check this color, and over here I'm just going to increase that font. So system font of size maybe 32, and we're going to set that to bold. I think that's gonna look nice. I'm not sure yet about the color. Let's just hope it works as we want today. So as you can see here, search for users and get connected. That is absolutely looking amazing. And if we try that in the dark mode as well, that actually looks great as well. So we want to add this search controller in which we type in, and based on that, we retrieve results from Firebase with exactly the users that we're searching for. So over here, let me just say private let search controller, and this is just gonna be a type of UI search controller. It's basically just going to be initialized with the same anonymous closure pattern. So search controller is just going to be UI search controller, and that's it that was looking for. Basically, we're just going to tell, well, I want to have a view controller that is responsible for taking in the input that I add with the keyboard, for instance, to search for someone, and I want the results basically to be displayed in another view controller, which is going to be laid on top of that current view controller. So let me just say search results view controller, and I'm just going to pass that right in here. All right, maybe you want to add style, for example. So I think it was called search controller style, something like this, or basically, yeah, search bar dot search bar style. You have a bunch of basically a default one, a minimal, prominent. We're just going to go with the minimal. I don't want anything fancy or anything like this. And I'm just going to return the search controller over here. And the way you assign that to your view controller is not basically by adding this as a sub view, but rather than you just type in navigation item dot search controller and pass that in. So basically that's just the way how it works. And if you tap Command R to build and run this app, you will see basically the search bar that was added on top of the search, basically, as you can see here. So as you can see, it's a very minimalistic search bar. Maybe you can configure the placeholder for that. So search bar controller, search bar dot placeholder star, or basically maybe type in or basically search with usernames. We can see if that is working as well, and I believe that should work. Yes, so let me just go to here. So yeah, as you can see here, search with the username. All right, keep an eye for this, and if I try to type anything over here, you're just going to see the search results are being displayed over here, and this is basically the table view, the sample table view that we have added. So you can just imagine that if we try to search for any user, the retrieved user should just be displayed over here, right? Okay, so right now let me just complete the configuration for this one. So what do we need to do here? Okay, basically we just need a way in which we can actually update the search view controller. So as you can see, imagine we're just going to fetch users from Firebase. We want to update that table view that have been shown with the fetched users. All right, so let me just do that. So the way you assign a data source for a table view, it kind of works the same way over here. So search view controller, I'm sorry. So yeah, search controller dot search result updater, we're just going to assign that to self. So basically we are declaring that this search view controller is just going to be responsible for handling the update method of this search results. All right, so over here we can just extend that to search view controller, and maybe I was thinking about UI search results updating. Yeah, and that's it. All right, and let me just conform by adding the this method, which is update search results. And as you can see here, we have access basically to the search controller, but it's just going to be of a generic type. Basically, this is just going to be a UI search controller, which is basically correspond to that one over here. All right. So in order to be able to update actually the search results, we might want to expose a function over here that it's just going to take the new users, for example. So as you can see here, we are hard coding like 5 users, or basically 5 hello worlds. So actually we can and basically we can just make it really simple. We don't have to add like a dedicated view model for this one. So let me just say something like var users. That's just going to be an array of type Twitter user, which is basically the model that that resembles a user in our app. And over here we can just return users.count, and we still need to use something over here, basically a custom cell that's just going to have the avatar, the display name, and the username for the user, but we haven't made that yet. But for now, let me just say let user is equals to users, and let me just pass in here the index path row. As you can see here, we have retrieved the user, so we can just make sure that we are actually fetching that user. So we can just say something like display name. And for the purpose of testing, I just added the display name over here because we're just going to be searching with the username. So we want to make sure that we have retrieved the correct user actually. All right, so let me just go back in here, and before going back, actually, we want to expose that function that's just going to be responsible for updating the table view. So over here, just going to be a function, but make sure you don't add the private method over here. It's just going to become an internal function. So so the internal function is basically this one, but in Swift you don't have to write it down yourself. So let me just say update users. That's just going to take a type of array of type users, and over here let me just say self.users. This is just going to be users over here, and over here inside of a dispatch queue dot main dot async. All right, let me just type that really nice over here. So we're just going to capture a weak self. All right, and over here I'm just going to reference this search result table and just reload data, and just make sure it's just going to become inside of an async inside of dispatch queue, in order, because we're just updating the table view on the main thread. We don't want to have any errors over here. All right, so how do we access this function from the search view controller? Well, basically from here. And you tell me how. This is just a search view controller. So first of all, we're just going to say guard let search controller. Basically, let me just do that without a guard statement first. So search controller will give you an access to a search results controller. As you can see here, this returns a type of a UI view controller. So what we want to do is basically let that basically we want to retrieve that as a results view controller. All right, but we want to cast that as a search results view controller. We want to wrap this in a guard, and over here we can just say else return. So basically we are accessing the search results controller, which is basically a normal UI view controller, as you can see over here, but we're casting that down to a search results view controller. So basically it inherits everything that the search results view controller has, including the function that we have just initialized and exposed to the internal project. So as you can see here, search results basically, so results view controller over here has access to the update user. So you might want to imagine that before passing in the retrieved user, we want to actually fetch those users, right? And you're correct. All right, so right here in this function, we want to actually use a function that we should define inside the view model so that we can use it to fetch the users. All right. Okay, so let's just go in here inside the view models. Let me just create a new Swift file, and let me just call that search view model. All right, and let me just say class search results view model. Just going to conform to the observable object over here. Or you know, we can just make it a little bit easier, but yeah, we don't have actually to observe anything over here. What we want to do is actually say func search with query. It's just going to be a string, and for simplicity, actually we can define a callback function, which is going to be escaping closure that pass in an array of pass in an array of Twitter users, and basically that function returns void. So basically that's the definition of the callback function over here. And basically we're just going to add a new database manager function. Basically it's something like yeah, something like this basically. So we're just going to say func collection users, and we can say something like search query, something like this, and we're just going to be passing in a string. And over here we're just going to be returning any publisher that emits an array of Twitter users, or basically it returns an error. All right, so database.collection, I think it's just going to be the user path. All right, so users path dot where field, and basically these are the functions that we can use from Firebase to query. All right, so Firebase doesn't offer something that you can use in order to search for all the users that have a certain characters in it or something like this. So we can try, but basically the most reasonable one is just to be using a field which is going to be is equal to. So we know that we have a field is called username, and we want to make sure that this username should be equals to this query over here. So basically that's it. And we can just say get documents, and as you can see here, that returns a future. So we can try map this to the documents over here, and basically we can just say something like this basically. So yeah, let me just copy this code from here. We're just going to try to map all the snapshots that are returned by Firebase over here, but it's not just going to become a tweet, it's just going to become a Twitter.user. So basically we're just mapping on all the snapshots, and basically for each snapshot we're mapping on each one of these right here, and we're trying to decode this into a single Twitter user. So basically a single Twitter user inside a map function that has everything as a snapshot, so just going to return an array of Twitter user over here. All right, that was a mouthful. Okay, so let me just go back inside the search view model over here, and we can make sure to import combine, because we're just going to store the subscription itself. So import combine, and over here, let me just say var subscriptions, right, which is going to be set of any cancelable. All right, and set that to an empty set over here. And over here, let me just say database manager.shared.collection users. I think it's just going to be the search, and we're just going to be passing in the query over here. We're just going to sync over this. So for the completion, let me just say completion and basically handle if there's any error. So if case failure, let error, and basically we're just going to be printing that error down so that we can know if something went wrong. And as you can see here, we're just retrieving back the array of the users that have been returned. So basically I'm just going to store that inside the subscription first. And over here, since I'm just going to be getting the users, and yeah, this is why I didn't want to add that to an observed property and just try to bind on that one. I can just use the completion noun over here and then pass in the users. All right, that looks great. So let me just go back to the search view controller because there's something that needs to be configured over here basically. So above the view load, we just want to add an initializer. That initializer takes a view model, and here search view model, and let me just say let view model just going to be of the same type over here. So say self.viewModel, that's just gonna be equals to view model over here. So we just need to add the required initializer over here basically, because maybe there's a way of initializing this without storyboard or something like this. So basically we are adding a fatal error over here. Okay, so that looks nice. So basically, before adding the Twitter user over here, we can just say view model dot search, and we want to pass in here the search query. So we can type something like search controller dot search bar dot text, and basically that's just going to return a optional. So we can make use of that guard statement basically. So let query and type in here search controller dot search bar dot text, and basically we're just going to be passing in this query instead. And over here we can just consume this closure. We're just retrieving here the Twitter users, so we can capture a weak self. Or basically, we don't need to capture a weak self because we're not referencing anything from outside this closure. So, or maybe we will. So let me just see if Xcode is just going to complain or something like this. So yeah, it doesn't complain because we are just in the same closure over here. So basically, I'm just going to pass in the users. So as you can see here, it looks really clean. So we're just accessing the search results view controller. We are accessing the text. We're just going to run a simple query using Firebase, and whenever we retrieve a user over here, we're just going to pass in these users to the results view update. So I think we are all set. And yeah, before this, we just need to say super.init and pass in nil for both the nib file and the bundle. All right. So I think there's also something that needs to be fixed really quick over here, which is inside the main tab bar. We haven't specified that the search view controller takes a view model yet. So basically, you can just fix that really quick. There's nothing fancy that should be added inside the view model over here, just going to be empty so that we can access this search functionality. All right, so basically, let me just hit build and run using Command R. And I believe whenever I search for the username using my name, which is Amr, as you can see here, we were just going to define that. So as you can see here, my username is Amr. So if I expect to search with that username, and whatever should appear on the screen is basically only one cell, one test cell that has my name, my full name, Amr Hussein over here. So if I type AMR, as you can see here, we have retrieved the user successfully. So right now we just want to add a configurable cell that has the avatar and the display name and basically the username and maybe a follow button if that's the case. All right, so we can just say here inside the views folder, we can just create a new Cocoa Touch class over here. But basically, this is going to be a UI table view cell. All right, And I'm just going to say something like user. Yeah, basically, yeah, that's it. So user table view cell, that looks clean and sounds amazing to my ears. Okay. And the cool part is we're just going to be reusing some views. So the best way for doing that, of course, is just to have separate views inside their own files. But for the sake of the tutorial and getting your hands dirty and trying to write as much as code as you want because you're in basically the learning phase. So yeah, that's the part, or basically that's the type of tutorial that I just thought that I want to implement. So we want to add the encoder over here, as you can see, fatal error, so that we can use this one. So super.init, we're just going to initialize that and just give it the reuse identifier over here. Okay, so we have, I think we covered defining the custom cell for our table view before. So let me just do that again. So static let identifier. So basically that corresponds to the one that we've entered inside the default one, which was basically cell. And I'm just going to give that the same, basically the same name as the file over here. All right. So I believe that inside the tweet table view cell, over here we have initialized the avatar view before. So avatar image view, I'm just gonna copy this guy over here. So let me just copy and paste that in my new user table view over here. So I've taken the avatar, and also I want to take the display name and the username. All right, so quick and easy. Yes. And I'm just going to add those two subviews over here. So basically, let me just duplicate this. And if you're wondering how I did that, it's just going to be Command D. So an avatar, image view, the display name, and the username. All right, we want to configure constraints for that boy over here. So let me just configure this function really quick. So private func configure constraints, and basically I'm just going to copy all the constraints that we have inside the table view cell. So let me just go down over here. I think yes, we have the constraints for the avatar. So yeah, that's the avatar. Let me just go back, the display name and the username, and we're just going to review them really quick so that we want to make sure that they look quite nice. So as you can see here, basically this have a top anchor, and this is just going to be constructed with the top anchor and have a padding of 14 points. Maybe we can just say center Y and configure that with the content view center Y as well, so that we can make it in the middle. All right, I think everything looks okay, because yeah, the display name should actually yeah, the username is aligned with the display name. So we just want to make the display name label also aligned with the center instead of the top anchor, and just remove the padding over here. All right, I'm just going to say ns layout activate, and basically I'm just going to duplicate that 3 times and add in here the display name and the avatar and the username. I think that's it for the cell UI. We just want to expose another function that says configure cell, and in here it's just going to take the user itself, so Twitter user, and over here I'm just going to say the avatar image path set image, I think. Maybe what is it called? Yeah, if you did find yourself not basically not remembering, I think you can just copy your code over here. So avatar image view.sd set image with a URL, which is going to be the avatar path over here. So let me just copy that as well. So instead of the avatar path, let me just say, yeah, basically it's just going to be just configure cell. Basically I'm gonna just change that configure with user. Yeah, that looks a lot nicer. So user.avatar path, and basically we're just setting in this avatar. And for the display name label, I'm just going to do the same. So user.display name, and the username label text just is going to be user.username as well. I think that's it. So we would want to register this table view instead of the other one. So let me just go back to the search results controller, and basically we're just going to replace this with the cell that we have configured, and basically this is just going to be cell.identifier, which corresponds to the same name of the file. All right, and over here, let me just change the way that we dequeue cells over here. So basically, I'm just going to say guard let cell just going to be table view.dequeue cell with identifier. It's just going to be the identifier that we have set over here, and index path. And in order to have access to this function that we have exposed, we just want to say that this is just going to be another user table view cell. Else we can just return an ordinary table view cell, and we're gonna be sure that this just not gonna happen because we are sure that everything looks correctly over here. And over here, since we have this search results basically with the users are just going to be updated from outside. So let me just access this user, which is going to be users. Yeah, let me just say self, or basically users and index path dot row, and over here cell configure with user, and basically let's just add this guy over here. So we've been coding for so long, so let me just test that out and let me see if that is working. And I hope it works. I'm crossing fingers right now. So yeah, build succeeded. It looks okay. Now we're just going to go to the search and type in my name, and as you can see here, yeah, it looks amazing. Not entirely amazing because we haven't actually configured the constraints correctly, but as you can see here, we have fetched the user correctly. So let me just go and fix that really quick. All right, so I just got the error really quick. So here, as you can see, we are adding these avatar and display name and username directly to the cell, but rather we want to add that to the content view. So let me just add that, or basically prepend that to the add sub view, or just adding the views to the content view itself. And for the search results view controller, we just need to set the search results table view delegate and set that to self. And over here, we're just going to extend the functionality of this view controller class to become a UI table view delegate. Where is it? So yeah, UI table view delegate, and over here we can just say height for row at, and we can just hard code that to be 120 points. So I guess this is just going to solve the issue, and we're just going to make sure everything is working right now. So yeah, I'm just going to search for myself over here. So AMR. So as you can see here, everything looks okay. We can just manipulate this number to match the desired height. Maybe I'm just going to set that to 90 points for now. So I guess that's it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we're going to handle the following mechanism for actually fetching tweets for other users. So if you liked what you just saw, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to my channel. So again, that was Amr. Happy coding and stay safe.